Landmines and jellyfish. Welcome back to Knives, I guess, and I blame gingivitis for this. But do me a favor and hit that like button, or 9 out of 10 dentists won't recommend your face. Yeah, but for the last week we've been carrying the Spyderco Sage 5. So let's take a look at what we're holding, because it'll bother you if I don't, and you know I love you. So first things first, and most importantly, the pocket clip is tip up, which is the Lord's carry. We have got the burnt orange G10. It's a reversible clip. We have got a spider hole, so let's flick the hole. And we have got 3 inches of Rex 121 steel. And so I carried this for a week. First things first, we would not have this in hand if it was not a gift from a friend of the channel. And again, you can identify yourself in the comments. I don't know if you want to remain anonymous, but I am immensely grateful. Immensely grateful. And, I was excited to carry this. I figured I was going to have a really good week. I assumed a good week was in my future. And yeah, I have got a list of things I noticed while I was carrying it. So we're going to go into that with no particular order. But one of the first things I noticed right out of the gate, the scales are very interesting. They are very grippy. These have a sharp lip going this direction, but smooth in this direction. And on this end, and the dingus end, it's flipped over. They're sharp here for extra grip, but going this way, really easy to slide. So putting that in the pocket meant, when I was trying to pull it out of the pocket, these things kind of hung up and grabbed on the cloth, and I could feel it pull. You feel your pants leg pull up when you pull it out of your pocket. So I do worry if this was being daily carried for an extended period, it would start tearing up the cloth on your pocket and maybe cause some issues there. Maybe not. I'm not going to get a chance to carry this long enough to see if that's really going to be a problem, but it is worth mentioning. So, the next thing up is it was indeed fun to fidget with. It was indeed fun to fidget with. I had it in my hand quite a bit, and I was doing a whole lot of this while I was walking around. It was a lot of fun. It was about as fun as buying 3 apples and knowing how to juggle. I can tell you right now, buying 3 apples and not knowing how to juggle is a saddening experience. Don't ask me how I know. But, I'm not sure how much I want another compression lock. Getting in there and holding it like this to close it felt a little bit unnatural. I got used to it after a while. I really did. So, I may want to go for another compression lock. I wouldn't mind having a compression lock with a looser action, because this thing will not centrifugal open. That detent is quite strong, which, double-edged sword. I love my centrifugal openers, but on the other hand, as strong as this detent is, I was not worried at all about it doing the accidental deployment in the pocket. So, kind of a little bit of this, a little bit of that. A little bit of good with a little bit of bad. And, it's like, if I go shopping for another higher-end Spyderco, I may look for a different lock. I may not. I'm not 100% sure yet. I do know I would have liked to have had a little bit better access than just the dingus end of my fingy right here, getting in on the compression lock, just because, I got bigger hands. This is not the most comfortable thing in the world to reach. It feels like I've got no traction on it, and I'm going to fall off. But it worked well. I didn't really have a problem with it sliding off, but man, it was uncomfortable getting in there. Now, it was really nice carrying something this lightweight. I did have to check and see if it was still there a few times. This thing does not weigh a ton. It's a fairly lightweight knife. Little bit of heft to it, but very, very manageable heft. I didn't notice it in the pocket. I had to reach down to check and make sure I still had it a bunch of times, and part of that was the paranoia of carrying a $300 knife that I cannot begin to replace, and we still have cardboard slayer to do on it. Now, the factory edge was definitely solid. Very, very solid. I figured it was going to be a good slicer, and I did feed it some cardboard, and it handled it with grace. Very, very nice slicey cut. It blasted through the cardboard so nicely. And it also, the plastic wrap on pallets. I've mentioned it every time I do a video, but I'll use that for a litmus, and that plastic wrap, a decent edge will go through the middle where there's a whole bunch of layers. But get down to that one bottom layer, and if you've got a good edge, a really good edge, it'll blast through it like you're cutting water. No resistance whatsoever. And so normally I've got to pull the plastic a bit and put some tension on it to get a good cut on it. This one, without pulling the plastic and putting extra tension on it, it still went through it very nicely for the most part. There were a few cuts where it hung up and gave me some issues, but nothing major. Like, I was really, really impressed with this thing. I was really impressed with the edge. Like, you know, and I'm just sitting there and I'm cutting. I'm like, ooh, daddy like. Which, again, totally different vibe from going, ooh, dad like. You know, just two words that mean the same thing, but totally different vibe. But let's take a look at our edge right here. I'll show you guys how it's doing, and we'll check out the edge tester. But, yeah, let's flake the hole again. So there's a little bit of resistance there, just a little bit. But I do feel like a lot of that is tied to the toothiness of the edge. Like, it's a real toothy edge. I can feel it. I can feel the toothiness of the edge. And I haven't really handled a lot of edges that are that fine and also toothy. I'm pretty sure they went up to about a medium range grit and left the edge there. And then stropped it and got it cleaned up. So let's take a look at our edge tester that you guys kindly provided through your super chat donations, channel memberships, what have you. Always grateful for that. And how this works is, of course, it measures the number of grams of force needed to cut the wire on this calibrated test clip. The lower the number, the better. And it's not the most precise thing on the planet. There's a lot of discussion about that right now. But it gives you a good ballpark number, and it quantifies something that's otherwise very hard to quantify on camera. So, what do we got here? We're just going to take one sample. 222. So that's still a pretty good edge. That's still a pretty good edge. You know, it's not the sharpest thing I've ever seen. We're going to take 2. I remember seeing a lower number. That was still a slow press. I'm wondering if closer to the tip, we're going to get a better number. Ah, poo. A 167. So yeah, that's in line with what I saw on those cuts. I'm guessing it's the toothiness of the edge that got us through the plastic that cleanly and got us through the cardboard that cleanly, which means I'm looking forward to Cardboard Slayer. I'm looking forward to Cardboard Slayer because if this thing slices this good, it's going to be starting off as a nice experience, but we'll get to that in a second. The next thing that I really, really liked about this thing is the wire pocket clip. You know, for a lot of guys, a wire pocket clip's no big deal, and a lot of guys don't like them. I happen to like a wire pocket clip quite a bit. I've only got 2 wire pocket clips right now, but this is like my favorite pocket clip. Wire pocket clips are my favorite. I mean, this is extremely strong. There is like, there we go. I can barely get it up off the scale. But it's still easy to get it in and out of the pocket, even with the wire pocket clip. Even with the aggressive texturing on here, it was still easy to get it in the pocket. And I will say, like, getting stuff out of the pocket around it, mostly pretty easy. You know, it was on the better end of a lot of knives that I've carried and tested out. It was pretty dang good. I really had no major issues. Now, I will say I was scared to push this too hard. You know, I've seen online where this is incredibly prone to chipping because of the high HRC, so I was really, really timid with how I handled it. Almost every single cut was like, "Are you there, God? It's me, Margaret." Oh, you gotta be old for that reference. Holy spanked lobsters. But, you know, I was real timid with it. I cut one strap off of a shipper, and that was a very fibrous, lighter weight strap, but man, it went through it so easy. The only time I've had something go through it that easy was the safety cutter, although the safety cutter that damaged the edge. So I was like, I don't want to damage the edge of a safety cutter that's a little bit more of a pain in the ass to replace than a lot of other tools I use at work. So I gave this a shot. But yeah, I really did not want to chip the edge before Cardboard Slayer. So I will say this thing, like I had mentioned in the last video, it did not impress my coworkers. I got a couple of, that does not look very cool, or that doesn't look that good. And I had to explain it. I had to explain the steel and everything else every time I showed somebody. And I had mentioned that before, like, this will not impress non-knife people. You've got to be way deep into the collector market and way deep into collecting knives before that Rex 21 becomes impressive. It's a shame. Like, I'd love for this to look more exciting, but it doesn't, and, you know, I'm okay with that. It is a utilitarian design. The steel is a novelty, the steel is a toy, but overall the design is very utilitarian, and it does a good job. So, I was also worried that it might start picking up some corrosion. I live in a humid environment, and I had it in my pocket, which means there's some humidity from sweating and everything there. So I did wax the blade a couple of times. I've been told this thing corrodes really easily, so I'm trying to protect this thing. And once it goes in the drawer with the knives that are too nice for this channel, it's getting waxed. It's getting waxed and put up where it's protected from corrosion, because it'll sit there for a long time before I get a chance to carry it again. And that's kind of everything I noticed. And I had mentioned it before in the past, I don't receive gifts very well. This is still a really awkward feeling for me, but I am immensely grateful. It's just not that I'm ungrateful. It's just that it starts kicking off the imposter syndrome, and it's like, why am I getting this? Like, I am not that important, So I'll get that feeling going on, but immensely, immensely grateful. Like, I can't say thank you enough. I may not be saying thank you so much once we get balls deep into Cardboard Slayer, but we're going to find out about that. Which, speaking of that, we're doing that tomorrow as of the time of recording this. That'll be Saturday, April 6th, I believe. And April 6th or 7th. It's Saturday. So let everybody know about this, or let them know to come back and check out the results, because this is going to be an experience. It's going to be an experience. I had heard mentioned that it's like 70 HRC 70. I could be wrong about that. I just heard it mentioned in passing. So do with that what you will. But, it was a great experience. It was a great experience, and, it's only impressive if you're in the weeds. Like, I'm used to handling stuff that's in the sub $50 range, so this is like a novel experience for me. I'm not going to get a chance to do something this expensive again for a while after the mini bedlam, just because I can't afford to do that consistently. But this is something I never thought I'd be able to carry, especially on my budget, so it's like my mind is a little bit blown. It really is. And of course, we wouldn't have it in hand right now if it wasn't for a gift from a friend. So, I can't think of a lot else to add before I'm just holding you hostage. The video is getting a little bit long in the tooth. So, yeah. All that being said, thanks for my crap. Subscribers, you guys are awesome. Y'all keep coming in. I appreciate you so much. If you haven't subscribed, please do. We've got live streams, regular videos. There's plenty of activities. Comments, I love some feedback. Let us know what you think about this thing. Let's say thanks to our anonymous friend for sending this thing in. And, yeah. We are going to do our Support Your Friends segment, so watch that clip, and we'll see you out of here. All right. And as always, we are going to link up to Cutting Lacey CDC's Diamond Emulsion if you want to step your stropping game up, make it easier to sharpen your blades, and keep them sharp. Wonderful product. I use it myself on every single knife I sharpen now. And we are going to link up to Mad Yocco's Wax. If you want to protect your blades that are prone to corrosion, if you want to darken up the color of your micarta, or take care of a million other things, he is going to be on Blade Binge with his wax. Alright, just supporting some friends of the channel and some small businesses. Y'all have a nice day.